This July, Modern Fairy Sightings and House of Zophiel bring you a weekend immersed in the world of fairies. I'll be part of a residential weekend workshop with spaces to share our personal experiences, meditations to connect with other worlds, exploring encounters and literature, painting and drawing, and creating a talisman. At each stage, we'll be exploring our deep connection with nature, listening to our intuition and the messages received. We'll be leaning into the other world and inviting contact. That's 5th and 6th of July in Sheffield. To reserve a space and for more information, email info@houseofzophiel.com, ZOPHIEL, or check out scarletofthefae.com and go to events. Join us. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings podcast. I'm Jo Hickey Hall, and I have with me Simone from New South Wales in the Border Ranges. And you wrote to me some time ago about a very interesting experience you had on a mountain in New South Wales, which I'm really looking forward to talking to you about. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be here. I've been listening to the show for a while, so it's really lovely to be able to share my experience with you and with your listeners.
Thank you. You were out hiking, weren't you? And came across a being.
Well, this happened at around about, would have been about 2003, 2004. We'd just moved to the mountain, and there's many beautiful walks to get amongst. And my husband and I set off for a particular national park walk with a gorgeous waterfall. It was really early. We like to walk early, so probably would have been around about 7 a.m. mark in the morning. We drove out to the national park, and we were the only ones there, and set off along our walk. Probably would have been a weekday because it definitely wasn't filled with tourists or anything. We set out on our walk, and it's a loop walk. So going down, you walk along a fair way, and then there was always, well, in the time that we lived up there was always a part of the walk that led out to a lookout, but it was always closed for renovation when we lived there. So we just continued on past this point. And around about 10, 15 minutes or so after that point, you get to a bridge, and that's where the stream that feeds the waterfall runs through. And if you want to go out to see the actual waterfall, because you're at the top being on a mountain, you leave the path and the bridge, and you scurry down over the rocks and that, and you go out to the waterfall and look off the side of the mountain and everything. It's really quite spectacular, and especially in the morning, it's really gorgeous. So we lingered out there for a while, and as we do, we're quite romantic in that. So we just had a wonderful, loving moment, and then when the time felt right and we'd had enough of the view, we walked back to the we were climbing back over the rocks up to the bridge where we'd first left. But the second the bridge came into view, there was a man standing in the center of the bridge, and he was dressed just like any old hiker that you would see. and he had a staff that he was leaning on, and he had it well, he had his chin propped on it, and he was staring directly at us as we come into view, and we saw him, and he was smiling. And immediately I felt just so almost anxious and uncomfortable. Like there was just immediate alarm bells kind of thing when we saw him. And looking at my husband and sharing glances and that, I could tell my husband was feeling the same. So we made our way up onto the bridge with the intent of just kind of a bit of small talk and moving right along. But yeah, as we got closer, it was just very, very eerie because he just was not moving a muscle, and just staring at us with this smile. And when we got onto the bridge, we initiated the small talk, saying, like, "Oh, hi, good day for a walk," those kind of things. And then he never altered the smile, but said, "Yes, it is." And then so we're like, "Oh, okay." And we're like, "Oh, the view out at the waterfall is lovely." And then he said, "The view from the lookout is lovely." And then we were kind of a bit like, oh, because we knew that the lookout was closed. And all this while we were talking to him, I could see these sparkles around his eyes, and it was almost like it was like a sparkler, how they've got those big sparkles. Well, these ones were very much the same, but just a lot smaller. And that was very eerie. And my husband and I kind of looking at each other, and we're kind of giving the indication to keep moving along. And so, yeah, we left the bridge very quickly. And as we were walking away, I was looking back over my shoulder at him, and he was still just completely still unmoving in that spot and still smiling and everything. And yeah, it was very unnerving, and we just ended up running away along the path. And when we got back to the car park, there still wasn't any cars in the car park or anything, so we knew no one had come to the come to the forest by car or anything. So yeah, that was yeah, quite unnerving.
Thank you. Wow. So could you run me through again where the lookout was in comparison to the bridge and in comparison to where you'd been with your husband? Did the lookout
Yeah.
overlook where you'd previously been with your husband or?
Yeah, you could see when you were out at the waterfall, looking out at the view. You could look across and see the lookout, and there was no one there in our time of being out in that area. And as I mentioned, the lookout, or the path to the lookout, was about 10 to 15 minutes away from the bridge. So yeah, the timing and everything of him being out there and saying that he loved the view from the lookout, and almost, well, he was definitely implying that he had been watching us, kind of thing, from his comment, because it was kind of like, yeah, the view from the lookout is particularly good, kind of thing. So
And he would have had to kind of come past you in order to get where he was on the bridge.
Well, for him to be at the lookout, yeah, he would have had to. Well, he didn't need to come past us. No, he would have been just along the path. But yeah, for him to have seen us from the lookout, we would have been able to see if there was someone out there.
Yeah, that is, yeah. So and even before you spoke to him, I'm interested in kind of the way that your kind of body an emotional reaction, a kind of physiological reaction to his presence. Can you explain more about what that was like for you when you first saw him?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Because, well, being such an early morning, you kind of think that you're alone and everything. So, I mean, in a general everyday kind of setting, if I saw someone and I wasn't expecting someone to be there, you might be a little bit shocked. But this was more like an instant reaction, and it felt like body physical all over. And yeah, and well, as I mentioned, looking at my husband, I knew he was kind of having the same kind of like, oh God, what's going on there kind of reaction to seeing this man. And yeah, it wasn't until we got well, certainly as we moved up the rocks and getting closer to him, it even got more unnerving, the fact that he just never moved. Like, he just never moved a muscle. The only thing that was moving was his mouth. And then, well, as we got onto the bridge and we could see him clearer, it was this vision of like these sparkles around his eyes.
Yeah, it's very eerie. And what was the sense? What sense did you get? Was it fear, or was it something else when when you first kind of laid eyes on him? What was the sense?
It was well, definitely a sense of like instant anxiety and like high alert. Like, it's like I switched on to like high alert, almost kind of like when you're in a situation where you've got to be, extra cautious because there's, some source of danger or something like that. So yeah, it was, yeah, that kind of emotion for sure. And the general sense that I had was that he was there specifically and wanted to wanted us to know that, he could, he had seen us out at the waterfall, and had been attracted by that. There was that kind of undertone, I guess you could call it, going on.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the sense that you walked away with, was the prevailing message, I guess, that he was kind of getting across in his way of being.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And did your
yeah,
husband
definitely.
and your husband felt the same?
Yeah, yeah. It was a very odd encounter that actually just, it really shook us. It really shook us up, having that encounter with him. And then couple of weeks later, we were driving in the car and we thought we saw the well, we had discussed that we thought it was a fairy when we left, but we thought we'd seen him, or the man, walking along just the normal street, and we both instantly had this reaction again come over us all over again. But then when we looked, we were kind of like, oh no, that's not him. But yeah, that's how deeply it affected us and shook us, having that encounter.
That's so interesting that you had kind of already come to the conclusion that it was a fairy. How did that conversation go with your husband?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been interested in fairies and, supernatural things, ghosts and whatnot. I've always just been a believer. I can't remember a time when I haven't thought of those things as just being real and normal and everyday. So it's something that I've always just freely spoken about with my husband, and he's quite open to all those kind of things as well. But it's my more particular interest. But yeah, to give you a sense of my daily practice kind of thing, is when we move to an area or something, like, I always make a habit of making a little altar, and doing a little invocation, and introducing myself to our new place where we're living, and introducing myself to the fairies, and and yeah, letting them know that I'm there to communicate with them if they so wish to, or just letting them know I want to live in harmony with them. And certainly when we'd moved up there, had done a little fairy invocation ritual, and set up a little altar. And then I'd left out, after my little practice, I left out a little saucer with sugar and cinnamon as an offering and as a gift. And yeah, just left it there. Didn't think much more of it after that. But then the following day, when I'd come back to the altar, I saw very clearly, as if someone had taken a heart-shaped stamp and stamped it down into the sugar and cinnamon. It was a very, very perfect shaped heart in the sugar and cinnamon. It was just mind blowing. I was yeah, just quite blown away by that. And I did take a photo of it, but I mean, this is like 22 years or something ago now. I have no idea where that photo has gone, but yeah, so I showed my husband, and Luke's, sorry, my husband's brother at the time was staying with us, and I showed it to him as well.
Oh,
So yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that was very lovely. Um, yeah, but we did have quite a few unusual experiences. The one that did affect us the most was the experience with the fairy being. Yeah, that had a very lasting impact. But yeah, we saw other unusual things in the same house where I'd had the little fairy love heart stamp. One night, my husband, his brother, and I watched for, God, it would have been getting close to an hour, these lights in the sky, as we looked out our it would have been the lounge room window. Um, yeah, it was kind of about the size, maybe a bit larger than a star, but the movement of it was just erratic, and then smooth, and then spiraling, and then zinging, and yeah, it was just kind of moving back and forth along our eyesight out the window for easily, yeah, for close to an hour. And then we were just kind of like, oh well, it's getting late, we may as well go to bed. So I don't know how long it kept up for, but yeah, that was incredibly bizarre. And I've got no way of explaining what that was. It's certainly one of those unidentified flying objects moments. I don't know what
Yeah.
it was, but it was there for an incredibly long observation time. And
Yeah.
yeah, that one still baffles us.
Did you get any sense of that when that was happening?
Yeah, it was so visible, it was so blatant. At the time, it didn't feel like it was connected to us, if I'm
Mm.
thinking back on it correctly. It was just, yeah, something that we were observing, and I didn't get a strong sense of why it was happening, or if we were the ones that were meant to be seeing it, or anything like that. So in that sense, I would say we were quite disconnected from it. But yeah, it was visible for so long. And the distances it would have been traveling as well, like if it was, at a distance of a star, for it to kind of like zing this way and then back that way, and then it would revolve and come down really slowly, and then zoom, back up again. So yeah, if it was in outer space, like, it would have been traveling vast distances. So yeah, very very bizarre.
Yeah. And this is kind of 22 years ago, as you say, when, or around that time when, before generally people had drones, people nowadays, people tend to think, oh, was it possibly a drone? I mean, even drones can't kind of behave in that way, but this is a long time ago. And I'm thinking about the encounter with this man on the mountain, and I'd like to ask you some questions about kind of what he looked like. But I'm also with you know wondering what was going on in your life at the time when you saw this man, and also when you saw the lights, and what the time period was like between those. And I'll try and remember all these questions in a minute. I'll say them out loud so I can remember them, but also from when you moved into your home there and leaving the offering in the garden. How does that relate to both experiences? Was that near the time that you saw this fairy man?
Yeah, so when we were there on the mountain, it just kept throwing up so many different, well, I'll say supernatural or paranormal experiences, whatever you want to say. Yeah, so many things happened in that time, like has never happened before us living there or after, even though like those kind of practices, like I mentioned, are still in play. I still do those kind of things. But yeah, there was definitely something particular about the mountain and the frequency of these things kind of occurring. So we had moved from a city and moved, this was our first kind of like mountain, forest kind of setting to live in. So it was a time of great joy and yeah, fun, and we love that area still. It's a place that still feels like home and everything. So all the circumstances of us coming there were really, really great, and that, and we had not long been married at that stage, and yeah, I just can't think of anything kind of like that was major or traumatic or anything like that. It was just more of like a really good, fun-loving time for us to be there, and we certainly did immerse ourselves in nature and everything. It was just so readily available. It was everywhere you looked, you could go into the forest and have an experience. One of the houses that we lived at, we actually had a stream that went into a waterfall right at our backyard. So I often went down there and that, and well, I keep talking about different houses because there was actually three houses that we lived in up there. So just for perspective, but the one that I'm speaking about now with the waterfall and the stream down the back, that had even what I would probably classify now as like poltergeist activity, even though it never felt uh, unnerving or bad or anything to live there. But the house would shake, and it was a quiet street. There was very minimal traffic. The only traffic that would go there was from local residents, kind of thing. And yeah, so many visitors to our house had experienced the shaking, and there was no rhyme or reason that we could come up with. Like you could just be watching a movie, and next minute you could feel it, and sometimes the screen doors would kind of like rattle back and forth because it was that noticeable. And so that happened the entire time that we lived there. And then there was one big major experience that happened to me whilst in the house. My husband was away for the weekend, and his brother was working at as a chef at a pub, so he was not going to be home until later. So it would have been probably around about 9 o'clock-ish or so at night. I'd jumped into bed and had been reading and everything, and I'd just turned off the light because I was thinking, oh, I've had enough. I'll go to sleep now. And the way the house was situated, it was like an A-frame. And when you walked through the house, there was a staircase that went right through the center of the house to the upper level, and there was 2 bedrooms up there. And when I was in bed, I could look out the doorway, and it was over the kitchen area, and out of the window is where our driveway was. And so this particular night, I just turned off the light from reading, and I was thinking I'll get settled for sleep. But then I noticed that there was this red glow coming from the kitchen area, from where the bedroom door looked. And I was thinking, oh, that's really odd. I didn't hear a car come into the driveway, because I was thinking it was my brother-in-law coming home from work, because it looked like the kind of glow you would get from brake lights. Mm. And so that was very odd. And I kind of sat up, and the red light went out. And then the red light come back on. And then I was thinking, I really cannot hear a car or anything like that. And then, without warning, there was just this thumping running up the stairs very fast towards my bedroom where I was. And I got such a shock and such a fright that I just shrieked out my brother-in-law's name, because all I could think in my head is, I haven't heard the car, I haven't heard the front door, I haven't heard footsteps, all those normal things that you would hear, but here's someone very physically running up the stairs, and the house was again shaking. And then so I kind of shrieked and had this major reaction, and then nothing. And then probably about half an hour later, my brother-in-law came home. I heard the car pull up. I heard him walk up the stairs to the front door of the house, and yeah. And then I had quite the tale to tell him when he got inside, because it was yeah, very 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 vivid, and very very physical. So. But like I mentioned, I never felt any, badness from the house, like you would perhaps normally associate with like some kind of, poltergeist activity kind of thing. And we never got a sense or a feeling that we weren't welcome, or that we needed to leave and get out, or anything like that. It was a nice place to live. We loved it.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's really interesting that it was when your husband was away. So, sounds as if, whatever it was kind of interested in getting your attention. It certainly ended up making you feel very uncomfortable. But that is a kind of threatening thing, the glow and you sit up to pay attention and you give it your attention, then it goes out and then kind of comes hurtling towards you with this very loud, feet clumping sound. Did it sound, if you were imagining it, did it sound like a man, woman, or child? That the
It
footsteps.
would have been a big adult running up that stairs. So in my mind, it was just, my my brother-in-law, like his size and that kind of thing, just running up the stairs full force. The noise and everything it just sounded exactly like someone was running upstairs, and the vibration in the house, the feel of it, and everything. Yeah, it completely blew my mind when nothing, just that was it. It just stopped when it got to the top of the stairs, and then nothing. It was, yeah, very
Wow.
unnerving.
So, and was this a later house from where you had when you saw the ferryman? You were in a
Yes.
different house. You were in a
Yep.
different house. This
Yep.
house with the shaking and the activity. Um, did you know the history of the house? Was it kind of like a mining town or anything like that?
No,
No.
no, nothing like that to my knowledge up there. No, and I would say the house probably would have been built in perhaps the 80s or something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not aware of anything particular about
Okay.
the house.
Did you ever speak to your neighbours?
Um, there was an elderly couple that you didn't see often on one side, and then it was another rental on the other side of us, and they kind of changed rentals and whatnot. So we never kind of really knew the people all that
Yeah.
well, kind of thing to ask, I guess. But yeah, there was yeah, lots of activity up on that mountain.
It sounds it. What was your sense of what that was about in that particular house? Did you get a sense of what that was?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to put a word to it, I'd be more inclined to say elemental than a poltergeist, because it didn't have any feeling that a regular kind of poltergeist activity would kind of bring with it. All the fear and whatnot of living there. So yeah, if I was going to put a word on it, I would say yeah, elemental. It just felt really raw, and I suppose primal, and yeah, untamed kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. So thinking about the this experience with the man, how long had you been how long had you been living in the area when this happened?
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't know with any great certainty. We in total we lived up there for about 5 years, but it was definitely in the early stages. So no longer than a year, to the best of my recollection,
Yeah,
from when we first moved up there.
yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely happened earlier on rather than towards the end of our living there.
And was that very close to when you had been married as well? You said you hadn't been married long.
Yeah, um, well, it probably would have been around about the 3 year mark of marriage for us. So I suppose it's still new, but not immediately new.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, so you've kind of, you've arrived on this mountain. Is this the house that you left the offering in, first of all, in that first house, or is that a
Yeah,
different house? Yeah. So you've
yeah.
kind of connected with the local landscape and, the beings that live there directly where you're living, but I guess, wider as well. And had you walked on this mountain a number of times before?
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely it's very spectacular. You're just drawn to get outdoors, and that another experience I just reflected on as you were talking just then is again in the house where we left the offering. There was another national park which was just a short walk from where we lived, and I've always been fascinated by crystals and their healing properties and whatnot. So yeah, I had a crystal with me one day, and we'd been for a walk in the national park that was very close to our home. And when we were coming back, I just had a whimsical feeling to put my crystal, it was a clear quartz terminated point, in this stream that you cross with a little bridge. So yeah, I thought, oh, I'll just go and put the crystal in there, and I just thought, oh, next time we're walking through, I'll come and pick it up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that went to sleep that night, and then the following morning, I was kind of I was feeling like I was coming to out of sleep, but in that in between state where you are still kind of asleep, but you're going to wake up. And wasn't even thinking of anything, as I'm just kind of coming out of my sleep, and this vision of a very, very tall body of pure white light was standing where I had left the crystal at the stream. And yeah, and that was the experience. It was just that vision of this very, very tall body of white light just standing at attention, arms by its side, just looking down into the stream where I had left this crystal. And well, that woke me up fully out of my sleep, because I was kind of like, whoa, where did that come from? It wasn't anything that was in my mind as I'm waking up. So yeah, that was very, very strong vision, but that's all that the vision was. I didn't get any other sense from it other than just that visual image.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I just thought she, the she, tall light beings. So yeah.
That's beautiful. I love the way that you're so open to, to that world. You seem very kind of responsive, very open, very relaxed about it. And is that something that is in your upbringing? How is that for you?
Yeah, I think I mean, these things often carry on through family lines, so it's probably somewhere there in my ancestry, but not not anywhere that is of immediate note to me. I don't think my parents even believe in fairies or ghosts or anything like that. It's just, yeah, I've been completely captivated by it ever since I can remember. I've just always been drawn to those other worlds kind of thing. So it's yeah, so it's always been strong in me. But yeah.
And it sounds like your appreciation of nature runs deep as well. Is that something your parents introduced you to?
Yeah, they very much were excellent at instilling a sense of wonder and awe for the world around me. It's certainly something that I definitely treasure, and hope
Yeah.
that I can instill in my son as well. So so yeah, that's a really big gift I did get from my parents.
Oh, that I feel very moved by that actually, because it is so important, isn't it? And I think you're right. It's not necessarily about the kind of necessarily around kind of otherworldly beings or fairies when, people can have some wow moments and moments of extreme awe, being at the top of a mountain, or even just something simple like, I'm sitting here, I've got the light pouring in and I've got the tree there, and even just to watch a bird landing sometimes is just, that can be the highlight of your day sometimes. It's just that moment, isn't it? And to instill that in children is just so important because you live with that connection to nature throughout your life then, and it's invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, of being able to see the wonder in awe in nature. Sometimes I've even had the comment, people are kind of like, you're just so excited. It was just a bird, or it's just a cloud, or whatever. And I think, oh, I
No.
really feel sorry for you to not be moved by the wonder and beauty that is nature. So so yeah, it's sad that how would you even describe it, that their eyes aren't able to access the beauty that is very present before them. It's a veiling of sorts, I guess, for some people. But
Mm.
yeah, anyway.
That sense of disconnection is very much felt, isn't it? But, conversations like these, I think, I know everybody that is watching this will know exactly what you're describing there and how it feels in your heart to just have those moments, which is, this is what life is about, actually. This is what being a human being is about. We're part of everything. We feel very deeply if we allow ourselves to, and hopefully we can encourage that, and as you say, in our children, and share it with our friends and family, and it can very much help, especially at times like this when, the external world is very difficult to be in. Excuse me, to just go and then take a walk in nature. It can just turn your day around, turn your week around, turn your life around if you allow yourself to open up to the beauty in that, and the realness and the truth that these sense of communion with these places bring. It's everything. Yeah.
Getting your shoes and socks off and your toes in the dirt and the water and all the rest of it is
Yeah.
quite restorative.
Definitely. And, I'm really struck by in the experiences that you've had, water has played quite a significant role. So, initially you've gone off to where the source of the waterfall is, and you're on top of the mountain. It's over a bridge that you first meet this being. And you had in the later house, the stream at the bottom of the garden. Oh, that is a dream come true to have a stream at the bottom
It
of
was.
any kind of water source around your home. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're leaving the crystal offering in the water also. So yeah, there's a sense of kind of liminality running through this connection with the fairy. You've got, uh, coming to the mountain to live. This is a new part of your life, an important part of your life. You're making a new life with your husband there, your family, and you are drawn to this mountain. As I say, you meet him on the bridge, another liminal kind of spot. Um, the symbolism of the bridge itself. And, being at the top of the mountain, you're there between kind of earth and sky. So there's kind of a sense of liminality there too. And I do find, and I have noted, that these beings are attracted by feelings of, love, lust. They are attracted by these kind of potent emotions, as sounds, between you and your husband when you shared a moment there, which you felt was private. And of course it was, aside to nature. And I guess, if we see this being as a part of nature, it kind of lends some kind of understanding to it. But, for a couple sharing a private moment, I'm with you with how creepy that would have felt to you,
Mm.
because we are used to these moments being, very private and personal. So I can totally understand how you would have felt in that moment. Did you note, you said that his clothes were like that of a hiker. Did you note
Yeah.
what kind of colours he was wearing or anything like that?
So from memory, the pants were green, the jacket was orange. He had like a fisherman's cap on, but I couldn't clearly remember the color now. Um, he had a backpack on, I know that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and well, the one of the things that really struck me about coming across your podcast was the image of that fairy that you had seen, because that face is very, very close to what this man looked like.
Oh,
So, yeah, I remember coming across the podcast and going, my God, it just brought me back to that experience that we had. Um, but whereas the image on your podcast is a lot more, I suppose he's a lot more passive and serene, and this face was very much this weird kind of leering, creepy smile kind of thing. So the image does differ in that aspect.
yeah.
There wasn't so much the kind of kindly old face that your image shows.
So did your man, did he have a kind of open face like that, or was it? Can you talk about the shape and what his skin
He
looked
was,
like?
yeah, so he was certainly bit wrinkly, kind of about in his 60s or so. The hair would have been dark brown. I'm pretty certain about that. The eyes were darker, in their color, and then of course the the sparkles issuing all around his eyes. Yeah, completely otherworldly and not something you see every day.
No. And how did his skin look to you?
Hmm. Yeah, wrinkled, fair complexion, no distinguishing features besides that. I mean, he certainly had a beard. Um, from memory, I think that's pretty much all I can remember, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is. Funny enough, that image is one. So my husband drew that image based on my description, and it's not quite what my man looked like, but I always say that he captured an essence of what he looked like.
Yeah.
The kind of open face. I mean, this man was much, much more wrinkled than the image. You just couldn't really convey how ancient this man looked. And but the kind of open eyes for me too was that was a drawing point. They were,
Mm.
open and drawing, not drawing me in a spooky kind of weird, creepy way or anything like that, but a real kind of sparkliness and openness to them. So that was something that was a sort of defining feature, I suppose. So yeah, so what do you feel that you were left with after that then? How did you feel about going back there again? Did you go back there again and what was it like?
Yeah, I've been back a number of times. I've even performed a wedding ceremony for a friend out there in the same forest. Actually, not down at the waterfall. That's a whole walk to get to, but at the top, not far from the car park. I've done that, so I was certainly never deterred from going back, and still wouldn't be, but. Certainly, if we do go back, we're certainly always reminded it. And I've even walked it with a friend and regaled them with the story and took them to the place and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I think perhaps just the solitude that was present in the morning, no one else being in the forest or anything, just really was this perfect opportunity for this being to come out and converse or engage and interact with us. It always struck me just how much he just never moved a muscle, and he just rested his head on the staff, wooden staff, like from a tree branch or something. It wasn't kind of like a staff that you would, made of plastic or something like that. Um,
Right.
yeah, it was a real kind of sense of for me that he was doing all that he could to manifest himself in that form, and it felt like that's why he couldn't move or anything, even though he looked like a hiker. Um, I mean, he certainly couldn't hide his true nature because of the sparkles around his eyes, and I think holding himself in that form of a human didn't allow movement or that. It certainly had that sense to it, and yeah, I feel like that center point of the bridge where he was standing, I think that was kind of like the edge of his territory kind of thing, because when he left that path to ascend, to go back to the top and the car park, yeah, just that feeling and everything just completely faded. I mean, we were excited and kind of talking about what we experienced, because the first thing I said to my husband was, "Did you see his eyes?" And he said to me straight away, "They were sparkling." So we were certainly talking excitedly and everything, but that intense uh, immediate intense like alertness and bordering on fear was kind of gone as soon as we started ascending the stairs to go away from that area.
Do you have a special relationship with it now there, or is it just like any other place for you?
Um, that entire mountain really does just hold a special place in my heart, and yeah, that forest is one of the more accessible to like the tourists and that kind of thing. So it's probably one that I wouldn't have trekked too often, kind of thing, just sheer because of the volume of tourists and that it does get through there. But yeah, it's completely breathtaking, and it certainly does hold yeah, beauty and energy and fascination still.
Thank you. And one more thing on that encounter, and I forgot to ask you what time of year and what time of, well, it was in the morning, I know, but what
It was
time of
definitely in the morning. Yeah, it definitely wasn't winter because we weren't cold or anything. I don't believe it was summer either because I don't remember being hot. So it would have had to have been, without being able to pinpoint it exactly for you, either autumn or spring, one of the in between seasons. It definitely wasn't either extreme of hot or cold.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm left wondering also whether you had any experiences as a child. Did you have anything happen when you were little?
I did.
Mm.
The
You don't need to talk about it
one
if it's not if it doesn't feel comfortable to do that, by the way. Just to
I was I was hoping that the conversation would
okay.
get around to this, because it's certainly an experience that I would like to share with you. So it would have been, I would have probably been around about 8 or 9, and I'd gone to stay at a friend's house, and that night her mother and her friend were getting ready to go out to see a concert, and their bathroom light to get their hair done, do all their makeup and everything was broken. So they had been out in the kitchen and was using just one of those little handheld mirrors to
Yeah.
do themselves up and everything. And my friend and I were just in the lounge room um, setting up, because that's where we were going to be sleeping, out in the lounge room, and just doing all our kids stuff out there. And the lounge room and the kitchen were pretty much joined. There was no wall or anything. And so anyway, they got dressed up and whatnot, and they went off to their night, and we were just left doing our kid thing. And then we'd had the radio on, and during the break, the announcer had said, "Oh, and then tonight, everyone, it's Halloween kind of thing." And well, in Australia, and certainly at that age, like it didn't mean anything to us, because it was just always, oh, that's that American holiday where they go out and get candy and all that kind of stuff. So there wasn't kind of any connection to it beyond that. And I think we probably even made that very point, oh, that's that American thing kind of thing. So that's as far as we took it in that moment, because it certainly wasn't something that the average Australian kid got involved in. And anyway, so did our thing and then just went to sleep naturally. And we'd set up, as I mentioned, out in the lounge room. And then during the night, I was just woken up very suddenly. And I know it wasn't sleep paralysis or anything like people can have, because I wasn't frightened because I couldn't move or anything. I could move. It was just totally within my control. And yeah, so I was woken up out of my sleep, and then I could hear this grunting, and I was like, God, what's that? And then I looked towards the kitchen, and where my friend's mother and her friend had been getting ready and using the mirror, there was this being sitting at the bench holding the mirror. So I was looking at its back, it had its back to me, and it had this mass of curly hair, and it just came out so wide from its body. And it was holding the mirror, what would have been up at face height, and it was flicking its hair and grunting and yeah, I was so absolutely petrified and terrified. I could see its feet on the ground. I could see it was very clearly rags, like a whitish kind of grey. And yeah, it was just grunting and making this flicking action with this big mass of hair. And I was just instantly petrified and in this sweat because I had no idea what it was in that moment. And so I looked across to my friend where she was asleep on the couch, and I was whispering her name so very softly because I was just absolutely petrified of alerting this being that I was there and I was observing it. But of course, my whisper wasn't loud enough to wake my friend or anything. And I was just there watching this thing. And after a while, I obviously just must have stressed myself out so much that I went back to sleep. And then when I woke up in the morning, I told my friend and all of this kind of thing. And yeah, we kind of embarked on a bit of ghost hunting and that kind of thing in our play practices after that, because we were both very in awe of the experience, even though it was quite terrifying. And then, well, as my interest in fairy and that kind of grew later on, I come across a description of a banshee, and I was kind of like, wow, that's what it was in terms of description. But then I also know that they're not known for being indoors, or that they're generally outside and doing their keening and whatnot. And it certainly wasn't keening or crying. It was just this grunting as it was flicking its hair. I know some of the lore around the banshee. There's combs. I don't remember there being a comb in her hair, but it was certainly that kind of action, I guess you could say. And no one that I know passed away or anything. Anywhere close to that time. So there's I suppose a few discrepancies with my belief that it's a banshee, but yeah, that's the best description that I've ever come across to describe what I encountered.
So you feel it was a female?
Definitely, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. And was it wearing any kind of clothing, or was it bare skin? Yeah.
There were rags. Uh, just like a ragged shape of the dress that I could see
Yeah.
down the bottom, because the hair covered most of her body and figure. So it was mainly the legs I could see, and like the feet touching the ground because she was sitting in a chair, and then the arms holding up the mirror. I could see them out to the side, and then of course this flicking action that it was doing with the hair. I could clearly see that, but definitely the clothing that I could see were like ragged, a ragged dress that was like a whitish or a grey.
And could you see their hands? Or were they just like, normal, well, human hands? I say normal hands, human hands.
Yeah, from memory, there was nothing in particular about the hands that gave me cause for alarm. Like they weren't really huge or anything like that. Yeah, there was yeah, nothing unusual about the size or the I mean the skin was pale. Um, but I can't remember. I don't remember them being wrinkly or anything like that. Well, certainly not noticeable enough for me to go, oh, their hands were wrinkly or something.
Yeah. And how tall would you estimate? It's hard because it's so long ago and you were only little, but
So long ago, they were sitting down, but just I suppose just an average kind of female height. I didn't get the sense that they were really tall or particularly short. I would say just an average kind of female height.
oh, that's absolutely fascinating. I would
Yeah.
love if anybody is watching or listening who has heard of something like this, I would really love to know because it does sound very unusual. The grunting,
Yeah.
yeah, the grunt. So was it kind of like a pig grunt or a what kind of
Yeah,
grunt?
not like a more like a kind of,
Yeah,
a short clipped
yeah,
grunt. Yeah, not like a pig kind
yeah.
of squealing or anything. More,
Yeah.
yeah, short clipped kind of grunt.
Wow. Gosh, that is super creepy. I really feel for you being, 8 or 9 and waking up to something like that. I mean, was that quite a pivotal point in your life at that time? And what was your relationship like with your friend?
Yeah, we were very, very good and close friends. We had the same kind of curly hair and everything, so we used to
Yeah.
tell everyone we were sisters. So we had a wonderful relationship. We spent many a weekend staying at each other's houses and everything. And yeah, as I mentioned from that experience, we used to set up a whole bunch of different experiments in the house to see if we could see if there was a ghost there or something like that. We
Yeah.
had a whole world of fun, but yeah, nothing ever happened. Much as we wanted it to, and all the rest of it. Well, I didn't have any other experiences around that time, or yeah, nothing more significant from that time. I would say, but yeah, certainly that was really quite well terrifying in the moment. That was for sure.
It's interesting that it had the kind of curly, did you say it had really, really curly hair?
Yeah, very coarse grey hair
Oh,
that came wide out from its body and would have went easily down to just above its backside. So yeah, very long and very wide, um,
yeah.
a mass of hair, wiry, wiry, yeah, hair.
Gosh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really interesting. And like I say, I'd be, keen to hear from other people who may have seen something like this. And I will do a bit of digging too. So, yeah, very interesting. And what's your ancestry?
Yeah, so Scottish and Irish and Wales and Norwegian distantly.
Wow.
There's something else in there. I had the ancestry um, .com one done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very much Celtic.
Yeah. And it's almost like that last one, this 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 female being sitting there with him, it somehow feels kind of Scandinavian in some way for some reason, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's just a feeling. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah,
It's obviously,
yeah.
yeah, Banshee is
I mean,
help.
certainly Banshee is the one that ended up sitting with me most.
Yeah.
Having heard later on the description of that, I kind of was like, wow, that's what I saw.
It does
So
sound, yeah, description wise, it does sound it's the grunting that is just absolutely fascinating. And yeah, maybe, I'll keep my ears and eyes open, and I'll let you know if I find any kind of
Yeah.
leads on that, because there's something about that is very interesting. Wow. Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your stories. And as I say, I just really feel this lovely, beautiful sense of your connection with nature where you are, and this joy for that too, and the fact that you don't kind of shy away from it, and you don't see it as anything other than awesome. In aside from the very unnerving situation with this man, but even that has got some kind of quality to it that it feels like he was kind of leaning into the emotions between you and your husband and sharing something special in that place itself. So, and perhaps that's just something that has always been, because as I say, I have noted that these kinds of interactions can happen with Otherworld when they are triggered by deep emotional human love, lust, and these kinds of emotions. So there's definitely something in that, and I think this story again points towards that for me. But it's been so lovely to speak to you, and
Thank
we'll keep
you.
in touch, and I'll let you know if any listeners or watchers have anything to add to our.
Yeah, please do. That would be fantastic.
Well, thanks again for your time, and thanks again for for chatting with me today and being in touch. And I'll speak to you
Thank you
soon.
for inviting me on your show.
Thanks so much for listening and watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider joining us on Patreon for dozens more episodes of unreleased bonus content, monthly online events, and a private chat. We are a warm, supportive community, and it really helps to support the project. Find us on patreon.com/The Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast. Healing has helped me many times in my life when I'd reached a point where something needed to change. In 2005, I trained with Martin Brofman to learn the body mirror system of healing, which was life-changing for me. It's based on the idea that the parts of your body that don't work well reflect the parts of your life that don't work well, and about which you have tension in your consciousness. The understanding is that tension is stress, and stress causes symptoms. In a distance healing or in-person session, I move up the chakras, returning each one to wholeness using a colour map. During the process, I see images and situations, I hear words or receive impressions that tell me something about what caused the tension in that person's life. The feedback at the end of the session is a really big part of the healing. If you're interested in a chakra healing session, you can contact me at scarletofthefae@gmail.com.